So, as I say, I'm just going to quickly whiz through a bit about Aqualisa and then quickly move on to Prevero and sort of the scope of what we wanted to do, some of the challenges, where we are at the moment and where we hope to be. Because I think, as Alice said, we've been doing this for about 7 or 8 months, but the plan is I think this will constantly evolve probably for the next 12, 18 months in terms of adding more and more functionality on in terms of what we're after doing. So I think it will be a constantly evolving project for us. So yeah, just quickly, we're a shower manufacturer based in Westerham. We're majority of sales in the UK and yeah, we employ about 300 people. Now I guess the main thing around that as to what was difficult for Prevero, if you like, or what was easy, is we're fairly easy from a legal entity point of view. We're one trading company, everything's in GBP. So that if you like, is the simple bit. The more difficult bit, and again I'll come on some of these things later, is then how we split our business down. So, and the main one really to take out of that is we do run 2,500 different product SKUs. And all of those different SKUs will have 7 or 8 bits of data attached to it. So often when we were doing a budget, you'd be looking at a spreadsheet that had probably 250,000 lines on it, maybe at least 1 million data points. So it was really, really heavy on the transaction side, but I would say fairly simple from a legal entity construction point of view. So on this is one of my ex-boss's favourite slides to put up, so I've changed it. But I guess what this is what most people aren't running probably an integrated solution yet find, which is you probably at month end you'll have about 10, 15 different versions of a spreadsheet. You've got loads of different versions of the truth. Everyone thinks their bits of data's right, and actually as an accountant I think what you spend most of your time doing is proving or disproving who's right and who's wrong. And I would say certainly when I joined Aqualisa 18 months ago, that's what a lot of my month end consisted of. It was trying to justify who had the right number rather than just talking about what the number is. And I think that's one of the first things that we've definitely got at Prevero is everyone buys into, no, that's the right set of numbers and that's what you talk to. And I think it gets the discussion moving in the right way an awful lot quicker. I tried to do this outside of Prevero and doing it in Excel, so you just got a few bits here just basically showing size of some of the files we were working with. This report you can see in the middle, the numbers don't mean anything by the way because I changed them all, but in terms of what you're getting there is, so that's a fairly simple gross margin report, but it's gone down to row 2,586. And the data that's building that up, so that's 1 year's worth of data. And as I say, there's like 200,000 lines of data. And then in terms of getting the data points right to make all of that work, we've got about 50 columns on all of that data to make it work. So as I say, while we're fairly simple from a company structure point of view, the level of detail we wanted to go into was huge. And it was causing us real issues. So what that meant was 12 months ago, 20 minutes just to open files up. A daily report that we tried to do every single morning would eat into at least 30 minutes of my day. Files, as I say, there was probably 36 tabs of them where we were trying to do by month, volume, revenue and costs. There'd be 10, 15, 20 versions of budgets and forecasts and not one right version. And you'd probably spend your day opening them all up, closing them all down, trying to find which was the correct version. And as I already touched on, I think the main thing was everyone around the business thought they had the right number and it wasn't being totally driven by finance and saying, no, that's what we're looking at and that's what it is. So what did we set about wanting? So I put that report up again there because that's basically, if you like, the simplified version of what I gave to Prevero and Alice and say, this is what we want to do. It's basically, I want to know gross margin by all 2,500 of our SKUs. And then I also want to be able to take that back by customer. The other thing we wanted to do was be able to do, as I say, a very easy access budgeting tool so that rather than just being a finance-led exercise, sales and marketing and all different people around the business could get involved because they could do the inputs. It wasn't a complicated Excel model. It was allowing the rest of the business to be involved in a process rather than it just being a finance process. It was ensuring that we all had this one source of data for all our budgeting and reporting. The most important two for me was perhaps the bottom two, which was automating a lot of the processes we put in place rather than it being all very Excel driven and formula driven. and being able to constantly evolve a budget and a forecast, which we weren't really able to do 12 months ago because it took you so long to build. So you do one once every 3 months, and then you really wouldn't want to touch it because you know it takes 3 or 4 weeks just to update. Whereas I think what we're really getting out of this is, as Alice mentioned, we now sort of can do this on a weekly basis and really quickly, really easily, and report on it really easy. Just going to quickly touch on, because I found this really useful when I was sat here 6 months ago when Go Compare did this, was just to run through how they went about doing what we wanted. And I think the most important thing for us at Aqualisa was actually understanding what we wanted and ensuring we just didn't go to Prevero and saying, fix the problem for us. I think it was doing the pre-work first of going, yes, we want to get rid of all these spreadsheets. Yes, we know that we want to be able to do a budget and a forecast, but actually a bit more detail around what that actually means for us. So build some dummy reports, take some sample data, work out how we wanted it to work. The other part of that early stage one was, as I say, because of all these different SKUs and different channels and different customers, it was ensuring that sort of our master data was correct. Because I think if you go into this sort of project and you haven't done that cleanup exercise, it then becomes quite difficult. So what we really wanted to do first was get our data fit for purpose. So we spent quite a long time checking that our product hierarchies work, checking that our customer mapping tables work, checking that everything we wanted to put into the system was fit for purpose before it got to Prevero. Then what we went on to was providing Prevero with these examples and working with Prevero in terms of, I think they came out before we actually signed up and went with them. I think they came on site 4 or 5 times just to come on site and give us a proof of concept, work with us to understand, is Prevero the best solution? How do we work with them to get all of this right? And I think that really does help. And I think making sure that internally the people we were putting on the project understood Prevero before Prevero came in day one. And that was just getting them to play around, as I say, with a bit of a proof of concept and play around with a dummy. And I think that really helped. It meant we weren't wasting time at the start of the project. So stage 3, this actually is the first time you can see something that we've got in Prevero. The next stage for us was taking that and saying, right, okay, so we know how it works within our spreadsheets in terms of how all of this works. How do we want it to work in Prevero? Because actually our Excel models probably weren't the best way of doing things. So I think we wanted to take a step back first and say, actually, how do we want it to work? And again, that was a really good joint process because Raj, who was our main contact at the start of the project, really worked with us to say we could have a conversation with him to say, rebates are us, this is how we think they should work, this is how this is what happens in reality. Can we work together to work out the right solution for all of these calculations? So that actually what we wanted at the end of it was as little manual input as possible, because we'd done that work early on in Prevero to say, this is how we want these calculations to work and this is the best way to move forward. And something we did that I think was perhaps a little different, because I'm moving away from the budget and forecasting side here, but we took the view that actually the best way to get this working quickly, again Prevero really helped us with this and we got all of this data in quickly, was actually go back to the historics. So what we ended up doing very early on is we got all of our actuals going back 3 years and then a very quick view of a forecast going forward 3 years. So we had 6 years worth of data in the system down to gross margin very early on in the project. Now that might sound simple, but in terms of what that meant was there's still a lot of calculations going on in the background with that. So all we were really loading in was some revenue and some volume and maybe a bit of material cost in terms of how we worked, but lots of calculations around the gross margin piece was quite difficult to get in because we were matching obviously what was in our statutory accounts back down to this SKU and customer level. And I think what really helped with that was it got us to understand the system really, really quickly what we want out of it. And as I say, very early on, we had this great now source of data, whereas when anyone had any questions going back 3 years, it was already in Prevero. We could get to it in seconds, we could download it, manipulate it, it was all on reports. And as I say, as an approach, I think that worked really well, and it got us up and running very quickly. So where are we? As I say, we've got this base data in, but going back to 2015, and we got this strategic plan working very quickly going forward to 2021. The next stage that we took from that is we're now getting daily feeds from our ERP system straight into Prevero, which means we can run, as I say, weekly reports every Monday morning, click of a finger, so rather than it taking me 30 minutes to do this, it's right there straight away. And for the first month, this month, last Friday, 1st of November, and straight away that afternoon, I had a full view of what my gross margin was for that month, and I was able to report on it against my forecast and my budget midday on day one, which I think was a fantastic result considering we've only been in 6 months. And in terms of where we are now, so we have a high level strategic plan for 2021, but we're now in full 2019 budget progress. And as I say, we already can see it's going from weeks of work to hours of work. So as I say, that's just a very quick example again of what we've been able to get into Prevero quite quickly. That's what our weekly report looks like. You can see the weeks across the top and all the different versions of actuals and budgets and forecasts, all of which is working quite, as I say, really quickly. And I think something to point out here as well, which I think works really well, is its internal resource for us that's been building all of these reports now. So basically we've had a day or two of Prevero's time teaching us how to do it, but it is so simple to do that now we have one person within finance that's able to do all of this nicely, quickly and easily for us. And as I say, there'd be another 40 examples of these I could put on screen, but I only wanted to, as I say, put one up so it wasn't just filling all the slides up. But yeah, being able to do that quickly and easily has been really good. So challenges in terms of what we had, I think first of all for us it was making sure we had the right resource on the project. And I think what worked really well, going back to a point that's been made earlier, one of the people we put on this project was actually a marketing resource. Didn't really have particularly good Excel skills. They were more used to PowerPoint and Word, coming from the marketing background. But I think what it was really great was they could get involved straight away in that they weren't having to catch up with the Excel super users in terms of how to use Prevero. They were able to pick this up just as quickly as anyone else. And then that helped in terms of the rollout now going forward, in that we've had that marketing resource help us hopefully going forward to teach everyone else how to use it. One thing we did, I was just going to point out, we did decide to bring someone external on as well, just to go through this for the first 3 to 4 months with us, which I think really helped, because it was great to have a dedicated person on it, rather than just relying on sort of an hour here and an hour there of someone's time, or a day here and a day there. So that definitely helped. Things with this was setting realistic expectations, because I think what I saw, I could see immediately all of the benefits. But it did take a bit of time for my boss to see it, because I think what we did early on was, as I say, it was getting all the data in, making sure it married, making sure it reconciled. It wasn't on all the fancy reporting bits that he really wanted to see, so he wanted to get it to it immediately. So from my point of view, and the people on it, we saw the results really, really early on. From the outside world to our little bubble, if you like, that took a little longer, because that wasn't until the end report was coming out, if you like. But I think in terms of internally, you do get to see it very, very quickly. And then the bottom one, I guess it's to any project like this, it's making sure the plans in place in terms of what you want to do and are realistic to stick to, especially around the resourcing side of it. And as I say, where are we taking this now? So one of the things we're doing with it, and I'm quite interested to hear about this technology around the planning side, because what we do is, as a manufacturing business, we've got a demand planning piece of software that we run alongside this, and that already does some of this for us, so it does some of that automated forecasting. And I think what would be really good with our use of Prevero is to have both of those running alongside each other, so we can compare what each one of them says, ensure that a sales forecast and our demand plan always marry up, which I think will be really powerful for us. And then what we haven't got to yet, but what's next on the agenda, is being able to do that full suite of P&L and management reports and getting an integrated balance sheet and cash flow working from it. And I think also taking it outside into the non-finance world, because I think they will get to see some benefits really, really quickly with that as well. Well, that, in the snapshot, 5-10 minutes, is what we've been doing over the last 6 months and some of the early results we've seen out of Prevero.